all the faculty members of the Far University for doing this excellent job that you have been doing. In spite of all the odds, you have held the fort and you have been able to deliver, which is something which is very, very incredible and awesome. Remember, colleagues, that the the events or symposiums or seminars that are being organized to be able to create that kind of an ideation process. Ideation process basically comes once you share knowledge with people, once you try to do the hand handling exercise, you hold hands and therefore you tell them, okay, see, I have done this. Let other people also know about the credentials, about the work that has been done by the fellow colleagues. Work which are appreciated by fellow colleagues give you much more satisfaction than being applauded somewhere else in other parts of the world. Therefore, this initiative, of the URC is really commendable, and I'd like to thank, Professor Asif Gondal for the great initiative that he and his team has taken. And I'm sure that this kind of online symposium will continue every quarter, wherein that will become a platform of trying to, share, disseminate all kind of research, knowledge, and therefore we could be able to collaborate, we could be able to share, and that kind of proudness in all of us will actually grow, and we will understand that we, as part of Dhofarians, Dhofar University people, the Dhofar University faculty have done an incredible job. So once again, thanking you all. Thank you so much for joining online on this platform, and my best wishes to all of you for the future that is to come. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Syed Hassan Jamil. Thank you for your valuable words. So we can continue with our first speaker, Dr. Almana. He is assistant professor in Department of Electrical and Computer Engineering. So his field of research is renewable engineering. So over to you, Dr. Almana.
Thank you very much, Dr. Najm. Thank you, dear colleagues. Thank you, Dr. Sayed, the DVC, for organizing this first seminar in Dhofar University. Today, inshallah, I'm going to talk about my research paper published the last year in the Journal of Thermal Analysis and Calorimetry with Springer Journal with an impact factor of 2.5. Dr. Najm, my screen, do you see my screen?
Yes, sir, your screen is visible here.
Yes, thank you again. The objectives of this research are about three objectives. The first objective is to analyze the situation of energy consumption and production in Saudi Arabia. Why in Saudi Arabia? Because I started working on this project with my colleagues in Saudi Arabia before I joined Dhofar University before 2 years. Then we started analyzing the situation of energy production and consumption in Saudi Arabia. The second objective is to review the renewable energy projects efficiency in Saudi Arabia. The third objective is to analyze the situation of academic programs related to the field of renewable energy. I will present this work according to the following plan. I will start with a short introduction. In the second part, I will introduce the energy consumption and production in Saudi Arabia. In the third part, I will talk about the workforce and academic programs related to renewable energy. And I will finish with conclusion and recommendations. First of all, the renewable energy is defined as the electrical energy produced from renewable sources, like the energy produced from solar or wind or tidal energy, or geothermal and hydropower and biomass. Any kind of energy produced from this source, it's called renewable energy. Why people are focusing on this kind of energy? Because this renewable energy has three main advantages. The first one, it's a clean energy. Indeed, it has zero gas emission. The third advantage, it's renewable energy. And the third advantage, which is the most important one, it's a free energy. It's a free cost except the initial investment cost. On the other hand, we have a huge increase of electrical energy consumption around the world. This is due mainly to main factors. The first one is the increase of the population and urbanization around the world. And the second factor is the industrial development. Then we need a lot of electrical energy. We have to look at the renewable sources to produce this, to satisfy this demand of electrical energy and protect the environment by using the renewable energy. When we look at the electrical energy produced from the wind energy, the first wind turbine was invented in the year 1887 in Scotland, with a total capacity of some kilowatts. In 2019, the wind power capacity worldwide reaches 650.8 gigawatt, where 59.7 gigawatt are added in the year 2019. Regarding the solar energy, we can produce electrical energy from the solar energy through two different processes. The first one, it's called photovoltaic, where the electrical or the solar energy is converted directly to electrical energy by using these photovoltaic panels. The second process developed during the last decade, it's called concentrated solar power, CSP, where the solar energy is converted to heat, and after that the heat is used to run some turbines to produce electrical energy, like the process used in thermal power station. In 2019, 629 gigawatt of solar energy was installed throughout the world. China is the leader with 30.1 gigawatt. In the second position, we have United States with 13.3 gigawatt and Japan with 7.7 gigawatt of solar energy or electrical energy produced from solar energy. Another terminology or process are used to produce electrical energy from renewable sources like the wind energy, the wave energy, the tidal and the ocean current energy. This process, you can see it's based on the offshore wind farms or floating photovoltaic farms installed in Singapore and Japan. This process allows to increase mainly the efficiency of installed renewable energy systems. The tidal energy or the wave energy again can be used to produce electrical energy through these tidal power turbines installed in Scotland and developed by Alstom company with a capacity of 10 megawatt. These underwater turbines will power over 5,000 homes at a cost of $65 million. Here in this figure, we have floating wave-powered generators. It's based mainly on the use of linear generators to convert the waves energy to mechanical energy, and the mechanical energy is converted after that to electrical energy through linear generators. Regarding the energy consumption and production, by the year 2015, the renewable energy or the electrical energy produced from renewable energy, it's about 9%. 8% produced from nuclear power, but 37% it's produced from oil. The electrical energy produced using natural gas, it's about 28%. The percentage of renewable energy or the electrical energy produced from renewable increases in the year 2019 to reach about 34.7%, with a total capacity installed of 2,537 gigawatts. In the Middle East and North Africa, we estimate to produce 96 gigawatts of electrical energy from wind power by the year 2050. We estimate to produce 41 gigawatts of electrical energy from solar power. And from geothermal, about 1 gigawatt, and some nuclear power station will be installed, especially in the Gulf region, to produce about 17.5 gigawatt of electrical energy. When we look at Saudi Arabia, you can see here the huge increase of electricity consumption from the year 1980 to the year 2015. In 1980, the electricity consumption is less than 10 billion of kilowatt-hour per year. This consumption increases to reach more than 250 billion of kilowatt-hour in the year 2015. The most of produced electrical energy in Saudi Arabia is consumed by housing and air conditioning systems with a percentage of 51%. 12% are consumed by government facilities. For the industrial sector, we have about 22%. Two main sources are used now in Saudi Arabia to produce the electrical energy, are the coal and the thermal power station and the oil. In the first figure, we have the coal consumption in ton per year, and in the second figure, we have the oil consumption in barrels per day. You can see there is a huge increase of oil and coal consumption. Authorities there are aware about the importance of renewable energy, and they set the target to produce about 3,450 megawatt of electrical energy from renewable source by 2020. You can see here the solar radiation distribution over the Middle East and North Africa countries. In Saudi Arabia, in Yemen, in Oman, in Egypt and Libya and the south of Algeria, we can produce a lot of electrical energy from solar power. Indeed, the daily solar distribution shows a high potential of solar radiation in this region compared to other regions around the world. In the second figure, we have the wind resource distribution in Saudi Arabia. You can see here in this region, the west of Saudi Arabia, we have a high potential of wind, especially in the region of Mecca and Medina and in the north of Saudi Arabia. In Tabuk, we have an average speed of 9.5 meters per second. These results show that if we install a wind power station or solar power station, through photovoltaic power station or solar concentrated solar power station, we can produce a lot of electrical energy to satisfy this increase in electricity consumption. Renewable energy projects in Saudi Arabia are about three main projects. The solar power project installed in Sakaka in the north of Saudi Arabia with a total capacity of 300 megawatts. Another project related to the wind power installed in Dumat al-Jandal with a capacity of 400 megawatts. The water desalination plant installed in Al-Khafji near Kuwait state allows to produce about 500 megawatt of electrical energy added to the fresh water. In Saudi Arabia, we estimate that the number of available jobs in these renewable energy projects is about 7,774 by 2020. This is from the KSA Vision 2030. When we look at the curriculum offered and the top four universities in Saudi Arabia, King Saud University and King Abdul Aziz, King Fahd University, King Abdullah University, they are offering a lot of programs related to the engineering. You can see here for the tracks offered are electronics, communication, electrical machines, electrical power control systems, and computers. Here we have 5 tracks in the field of electrical engineering. When we look at the different courses, we didn't find any course related to renewable energy. Again, in the second university, King Abdulaziz University, they have 2 tracks with no course related to renewable energy design or optimization or analysis. The same thing for King Fahd University and King Abdullah University for Science and Technology. Then we recommended the following action. We recommend to update the curriculum to prepare graduates to manage and optimize and control these projects related to renewable energy. Then some courses should be added to the curriculum or new programs should be installed or designed to satisfy the needs. For the compulsory course, we proposed some course related to renewable energy production integration of renewable energy source into power grid, the smart grid, the power electronics application, renewable energy or the energy storage, the optimization of renewable energy systems using special softwares. Some courses can be added as elective course to well prepare the graduates to manage these renewable energy projects. In conclusion, it is required to optimize the renewable energy power plants and determine the best route for balancing energy output with construction costs using professional softwares like Homer, SolarGIS, and others. There is a need to update the engineering programs and or to establish new engineering programs according to renewable energy trends and projects. Indeed, graduates from both bachelor and master programs in renewable energy science and engineering will serve as workforce in promoting renewable energy projects. Research projects in renewable energy should be a priority for research center or research laboratory. Thank you very much, and that's it from my side.
Thank you so much, Dr. Almana, for your nice presentation. So anyone has any questions, so kindly, if you have some questions, so please write in the chat box. So I'll read it for Dr. Almana to answer. Anyone has any question? So Dr. Almana, I have one question.
Yes, please.
That do you think that solar energy is going to replace the other form of energy soon, or if how much time it will take, and is there any hurdle or some limitations that's why it is getting late and late?
Yes, the advantage of solar energy, as I said, it's free energy and it's clean and it's renewable. However, and until now, the efficiency of solar of PV panels developed is about 20%, and the lifetime of PV panels it's about 25 years. Then the initial cost of investment is very high, and you have to select the best place to install these PV systems. Otherwise, the efficiency of the projects or the return from this project will be very less or something.
Okay, someone has put the question, so that can you give some kind of concluding remarks about your presentation, that how it is, what you concluded exactly from this research regarding the renewable energy?
Yeah, from renewable, we have two main important conclusion from this conducted research. The first one is we can produce a lot of electrical energy from renewable source in Saudi Arabia or in the Gulf region. The second important thing is to update the curriculum of engineering in some university to prepare graduates to manage and to work in these projects, because you know the industry or it should be related to our university or our curriculum.
It is a review article, yes?
Yeah, it's a review, yes.
Anyone else if there's any question? So if no questions, so we can move to the next presenter. Thank you so much, Dr. Almana, for your nice presentation. So we can, the next presenter is Dr. Omar Farooq from Department of Electrical and Computer Engineering. So his research is, major area is embedded system, and he's going to present a paper related with the IoT, Internet of Things. So Dr. Omar Farooq, over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Najmul Hassan. Am I clear to
Yes.
start the presentation?
Yes, sir. Can you share the slides?
Okay. So the topic of my...
Yeah, it's visible, so you can go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Do I have your permission? So, okay. Thank you very much for the presentation, Dr. Najmul Hassan. So the topic of my presentation today is efficient adaptive framework for securing the Internet of Things devices. Myself, I'm Omar Farooq, and I'm working as associate professor at Electrical and Computer Engineering Department of Dhofar University, Salalah, Oman. So first of all, the outline of the presentation. In the outline, first of all, I'm going to discuss the background, the motivation, the objectives that we have for this particular work. And then since this work is based on the security of IoTs, Internet of Things devices, so I'm going to discuss briefly the reference IoT model that we use in this work. Next, I'm going to present the mathematical system model for the reference IoT model that we consider. And then I discuss the framework that we propose, the adaptive framework that we propose to optimize the functionality of IoT-based system in terms of resources and throughput. Finally, I'm going to present some results and conclude this presentation. So first of all, the background of this work, Internet of Things devices, they have seen enormous popularity over past few years. For some of you who are not familiar with Internet of Things, basically these are the things or the devices which provide internet-based services, and normally their interaction involves thing to thing, thing to things, and thing to humans. So there is not really a formal definition of what the Internet of Things are, but mainly the Internet of Things are the devices which provide services which are based on internet. And over past few years, the Internet of Things, they have seen enormous, you can say, popularity and deployment in all walks of life. And mainly this popularity is because of the advancement in hardware as well as the software. Uh, Nowadays, we have Internet of Things prevalent almost in every walk of life. They are in our homes, they are in our cars, they are like in smart health systems, future smart health systems, they are in the smart production plants. So I mean, there is a survey which has projected that by the end of year, this year 2020, the Internet of Things, it will be a multi-billion-dollar industry. And the applications of Internet of Things, it is just you can say it is like its applications, they are limited only by the human imagination. We are going to see Internet of Things almost in every sphere of life in next few years. So the applications that I have just mentioned, for example, Internet of Things, we have them in smart health systems. Internet of Things, we have them in smart manufacturing plants. We have them in our homes. We have them in our cars. So the amount of data that these tiny devices, they handle, it's humongous. It's huge. And normally, no, it's not only about the amount of data that these things they handle is huge, also the nature or the type of data which is handled by these devices, it's of very critical nature. And because of this critical nature, the IoT devices, they are, you can say, potentially very lucrative target for all kinds of malicious attackers. For example, somebody or some hacker can be interested in someone's personal health records, and somebody might be interested in, let's say, in some smart plants manufacturing details or production details. So basically, if these devices or the data that is handled by or generated by these devices, it is somehow compromised, it can result in very critical, in some cases, it might result in life-threatening situations or financial collapse also as well. So a lot of research basically has been done to make these devices secure. And normally the attackers, they try to attack or try to steal the data with all sorts of attack, like Trojans, like side channel attacks, like power attacks. And against these attacks, the researchers, the scientists, they have proposed lots of countermeasures like side channel analysis, differential power analysis. Then there is isolation, there is blocking, etc., etc. And among the countermeasures, the most commonly used, or you can say the most preferred among the countermeasures, are the encryption based countermeasures, where encryption schemes are implemented, where the data is secured, it is encrypted with the help of encryption schemes like advanced encryption standard, data encryption standard, etc., etc. So basically what we plan to do, or what we have proposed in this particular work, we secure the Internet of Things devices with the help of encryption schemes. And basically, we not only secure them using a static implementation of advanced encryption scheme, basically owing to the heterogeneous nature of IoT devices that we have, we propose the implementation of 5 different implementations of advanced encryption standard. And then those 5 different implementations of advanced encryption standard, they are basically mapped, or you can say assigned to IoT devices in a very efficient way with the help of our proposed framework. And the objective of that particular proposed framework that we propose in this work is to optimize, or to find the best trade-off in terms of the throughput as well as the resource usage. So this is basically the background of this whole work that I'm going to present. So basically, after the background, as we are considering to secure an IoT model, so now I'm going to discuss the reference IoT model that we consider in this particular work. Now, as I explained at the start of this presentation, that this is quite a hot area of research, and nothing has been, not much has been standardized so far. So there is no actually like standard IoT model that exists for like IoTs. So in this work, we consider a multi-layered reference IoT model, as you can see over here. And if I start the explanation of this model from like bottom up way, so at the bottom, we have the sensors, and these sensors, they are basically the primary devices which gather the data. These sensors, they basically hand over the data to IoT devices, as you can see them over here. And then these devices, they transmit the data to the gateway. A gateway over here, it acts as, you can say, the interface between these devices and the rest of the world, because all the data data analysis which is being gathered by different devices, it is handled by this gateway, which is a very normally very powerful processor. And from this gateway upwards, the data is basically dispatched, or you can say accumulated and stored in the public cloud. In some cases, it is stored in embedded clouds, and where all the processing or the accumulation of the data is done, and that data is basically transformed into a meaningful data that can be interpreted by the end users with the help of applications. So if we look at this reference IoT model, if I just focus on the upper layers of this particular reference IoT model, where users are, applications are, or the data centers are. Now, all these upper layers, they are quite secure in a sense that they are secured with the help of very powerful, very efficient firewalls and communication protocols. Furthermore, normally these layers, the data is kept in isolation, and it is not accessible directly by the malicious attackers. But as we go down, like from gateway downwards, as you can see, that especially at the sensor side or at the device side, basically these are the hardware devices which are normally in the direct access of the malicious attackers or the potential attackers. And if the integrity of data is compromised from this level upwards, so then it becomes very hard to secure the overall system. So basically, this is the bottom level of this reference IoT model, where the security is of like, it's very challenging in a sense that the attackers, they have direct access to the devices, one, and the second thing is these devices, they are heterogeneous in nature and they are scattered. So basically, what we propose in this particular work, that we secure the data in these devices with the help of encryption scheme, advanced encryption scheme, of course. And we not only consider the static nature, rather we consider the heterogeneous nature of these devices. We propose multiple implementations of advanced encryption scheme that can satisfy the needs of various IoT devices, and we perform efficient matching with the help of a matching algorithm. Now, in order to implement our proposed adaptive framework, while keeping in mind the reference IoT model that I have just explained, first of all, we need to mathematically model the system that we want to adopt or efficiently map our schemes on that. So the mathematical system model for, or you can say the objective function for this model is represented over here in this equation. And our objective is to maximize the, you can say, a numerical value in this particular function. In this function, n basically represents the number of IoT devices that I mean, n is just a generic value. It can be any number, and m is the number of encryption schemes which can be mapped to any of those n devices. And then in this equation, we have two functions, which are f1 and f2, two optimization functions or utility functions, you can say. F1 is basically solely focuses on the throughput, on maximizing the throughput of the overall system, and F2 focuses on the minimizing the resource usage of the system, right? And we try to create a balance between because both these functions, you can say both of them, they are conflicting with one another. So in order to like have a balance or keep a balance, in order to keep a balance between the optimization functions, we make them weighted in a sense that we assign them weights W1 and 1 minus W1, and the sum of these two weights, it's always going to be equal to 1, right? So this optimization objective or this function, it is also constrained by the three constraints which are given over here at the bottom of this slide. For example, the first constraint says that one optimization, one advanced encryption scheme, it can only be given to only one IoT device, right? And then the second constraint, it states that the resources that we have available the resources that we have available in an IoT device, they should be more than the resources which are required by a scheme. The third constraint states that the device throughput, it should be greater than the throughput which is required by the scheme under consideration. Now, this is basically the mathematical model or the system model. And to be more precise, this is our optimization problem. We want to maximize this value. And in order to maximize this value, there are multiple options which are available, which can be adopted or which can be applied to find the best possible value for the system model. A brute force is one example, which can give very good results. But the thing is, I mean, for small number of IoT devices, it's going to be okay to use like brute force. But when the number of devices, they are very large in number, then brute force does not remain a viable option. So basically what we do, in order to get the maximum value or in order to get the best possible value for this optimization objective, we propose to apply a one-to-one matching algorithm on this particular mathematical model. And for that, we propose a framework. Now, in order to understand this framework, basically a one-to-one matching algorithm is normally applied on a graph. So let's consider this graph, this simplistic version of a graph. On the left, as you can see, I have numbered I1, I2, I3, and I4. These are the names for, let's say, IoT devices. And on the right, I have made vertices S1 and S2. Let's say we have, just for the sake of simplicity, we have 4 IoT devices, and they can choose any of the 2 possible available AES implementation schemes. Now, if I make a graph, a bipartite graph, so in a bipartite graph, a one-to-one matching algorithm can draw only a one edge, as you can see with the help of the solid black line that can be drawn from like I1 to S1, as you can see. So in this particular scenario, the scheme S1 will be implemented, or it will be given to IoT device 1, and scheme S2 will be given to IoT device 3. The problem with this particular bipartite graph is that basically we have 4 devices and we have 2 schemes. And in order to apply matching algorithm on this bipartite graph, we cannot assign all the schemes to all the IoT devices, because only one edge, each scheme can receive only one edge. So to like resolve this problem, we modify this bipartite graph, and we replicate the number of schemes 2 times, so that the number of IoT devices on the left, they are equal to number of schemes on the right. And again, as you can see, all the possible combinations, they are shown over here in the form of edges between the 2 vertices, and only the black lines or the solid lines, they are indicating that which scheme will be implemented or will be assigned to which device. Now, again, this particular bipartite graph has a discrepancy in a sense that, let's say, scheme 1 is the most appropriate scheme for all the IoT devices. So in that case, scheme 1 can be given at max only to I1 and I4, as you can see from this part of the figure. And I2 and I3, they still have to be contented, or they still have to, you can say, use scheme S2. So again, this is not going to result in the optimal functionality of the overall IoT based system. For that, we again introduce another incremental, you can say, solution, and we modify the bipartite graph one more time. So how do we do that? We replicate the number of schemes equal to the number of the IoT devices to which they could eventually be implemented, right? So basically that would eventually result in a unsymmetric graph, because number of IoT devices on the left, they will be less as compared to the number of schemes on the right. So in order to create symmetricity, in order to make the graph symmetric, we add zeros, and eventually this is going to result in a symmetric graph. And now on this symmetric graph, we can apply a matching algorithm. In our case, we use Hungarian matching algorithm, which is applied on this bipartite graph. And this bipartite graph, when Hungarian algorithm is basically applied, the devices, they are mapped with the schemes, and then weight, depending upon the values that we calculate from the previous equation that I have explained on the previous slide, these edges, they are given weights, and then iteratively the edges with fewer or smaller values, they are removed from the graph, and eventually in a very short time, as compared to brute force, we come up with a very good solution, and that solution basically gives us the optimal result. So moving forward, now I'm going to discuss about or talk about the experimental setup that we use for this particular work and the results that we obtain. Now, as I explained before, that in this particular work, we use AES implementation, advanced encryption standard, and a generic or standard implementation of AES algorithm. It is shown in this slide. It can be seen from this slide that AES it mainly comprises of 2 modules. One is called the cipher module, and the other is called the key expansion module. Now, these modules, they can be implemented in the hardware in a variety of ways. Okay, and based on those possible combinations, like we optimize or we use the techniques, hardware optimization techniques like loop unrolling and the pipelining and the specific usage of hardware resources, we implement AES in 5 different ways. And those 5 different ways, of course, they give us different values of throughput and resources. For example, if we use pipelining and loop unrolling, our implementation is going to be very fast. Its throughput value is going to be very high. But at the same time, it is going to require a load of hardware resources. On the other hand, let's say if I implement the cipher module and the key expansion module in a serialized way where I generate my key first and then I use that key for the implementation of cipher module. So I'll be using very limited amount of resources, but at the same time, the throughput of that particular implementation is going to be very small. Okay, so basically by having a pool of different implementations, we intend or we aim to address the requirements of the heterogeneous nature of various IoT devices that we can come across in an IoT based system, right? So once we have the pool of 5 implementations of advanced encryption standard, so then we move on to the experimentation. So for experimentation, we model the system that I have described a couple of slides ago on MATLAB, and then on that model, we apply the Hungarian algorithm. So in the algorithm, basically, we perform the simulations. So first of all, our first objective was that the weighted function that we have explained.
Kindly mute your mic.
Could you please,
Kindly mute your mic.
Hussam, could you please mute your mic? I'm getting disturbed, please.
انا عايز ده كنت داير اسالك ليه انه هل
Dr. Hussam,
انا ما
anyone know his extension? Can he call him to get muted?
انا عملت سكرين شوت
Okay.
اسمه واحد وانا
Who is there?
عملت تاني
Who is
برنت
there
الايميل
speaking? Okay, whose mic is
كده
unmuted?
فاهم.
Okay.
الو عليكم السلام ورحمه الله.
Okay. Whose mic is there? Who is this person?
اوكي اوكي
Dr.
So I'm sorry for the interruption.
Sorry for the interruption. Dr. Omar, you can continue.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Najab, for the intervention. So I was explaining the result for the simulation. Basically, our first objective was the weighted function where we want to optimize both the resources as well as the throughput. Our first concern was how these weighted values, they are going to affect the overall throughput as well as the resources. So for that, we try 4 different combinations, as you can see over here in this particular figure. For W1 and W2, let me mention here that W1 value of W1 and W2, their sum can never be great, or their sum should always be equal to 1. So we try 4 different combinations, and with those 4 different combinations, we vary the number of users. From number of users over here, I mean the number of IoT devices, and we see how the average throughput of the overall system is going to change. So in this particular figure, W1 corresponds to the weight that we give to the throughput, and W2 is the weight that we give to the resource. And keep in mind that W1, our objective or our aim is to maximize the throughput through W1 weights, and our objective is to minimize the number of resources. So if we keep these things in mind and we plot them, we can see from this figure that as we start, let's say, if we consider the first combination where W1 is 0.2 and W2 is 0.8, so this is plotted over here. So the throughput is quite small because of the fact that the weight that we are giving to the throughput is small. But as we increase the weight that we are giving to W1, which is, of course, we are trying to maximize the throughput, the average throughput of the system is going to increase, right? And now next we apply the same weight combinations, and we observe the value of the average resources. So as we start with W1, which is equal to 0.2, and W2 is 0.8, the number of resources is, as you can see, are quite small. because W2 over here, since we are observing the value of the resources, so W2 is high. So when W2 is high, our optimization objective is to minimize the number of resources, and that can be seen from here, from the red line at the bottom. And as the value of the W2 decreases and W1 increases, so the number of resources increase. Now, from these two figures that I have just explained to you, we can see that our weighted functions, they are working correctly. They are achieving their simultaneous objectives, but we want to see their combined effect, that how the W1 and W2 combined together, they improve the overall throughput and the resources of the system. So for that, we make another plot over here. I make another plot over here where I fix the number of users or number of IoT devices, let's say for the sake of generality to 10. And I plot W1 in the form of blue line over here and W2 in the form of green line over here. Okay, and you can see over here, let's say at the beginning, W1 is 0.1. So W2 will be 0.9. So when W1 is 0.1, average throughput is quite small, and at the same time the average resources are also small. So this is basically, as you might realize from this particular figure, that the two objectives that we want to optimize, they are conflicting with each other. For example, higher resources would mean higher throughput and smaller resources would mean smaller throughput, but our objective is to reduce the resources and increase the throughput. So for that, we increase W2 or W1 to 0.2 and W2 to 0.8. So as you can see, resources, they increase, throughput also increases. So in this way, basically, we keep on trying different combinations, and the best value that we get is over here at W1, where W1 is 0.5 and W2 is also 0.5. At this point, we, you can say, achieve the best trade-off of resources as well as the throughput. If we move below this combination, like for example, if we go beyond this combination, so over here W1 is like 0.6. So the resources are high, the throughput is high, but at the same time, if you see, the resources are also very high. So this particular plot indicates that if we keep the value of W1 equal to 0.5 and W2 equal to 0.5, we can manage to get the best trade-off for overall throughput and the resources of the system. So for the next experimentation, we fix these two values, W1 is 5 and W2 is 0.5, and then we compare our proposed framework to some of the other solutions. For example, we compare it to two other techniques, the greedy one and the random one. And as you can see from this particular figure, that the proposed framework, it gives better average throughput results compared to random as well as the greedy approach. Random, it's quite obvious that basically we are randomly picking any schemes and then we are mapping them to the IoT devices, provided that constraint 2 and 3 are satisfied. So it gives the worst result among the three techniques that we or three possible solutions scenarios that we consider. And the greedy approach, it can either like optimize the resources or it can optimize the throughput, because it cannot optimize both of them at the same time. So that's why it's average throughput and as you will see on the next slide, average resources are not as good as compared to our proposed framework. So from these two figures, we can conclude that I can come to the conclusion. So in this work, as I have explained, that we have proposed a weighted optimization functions, which are formulated to secure the IoT devices. Okay, and we have seen that for experimentation, we use 5 different implementation schemes of AES cryptographic scheme. We propose an adaptive framework that gives best trade-off. It tries to find best trade-off between resource usage and throughput for an IoT-based system. And our comparison with two approaches, random and greedy approaches, shows that the proposed framework, it gives on average 17% better throughput as compared to the random approach, and 11% on average, of course, better throughput results as compared to the greedy approach, and then it gives 13% and 3% better resource usage results as compared to random and greedy approach respectively. So thank you very much for your attention, and I'm done with the presentation.
Thank you so much, Dr. Umar, for your excellent presentation. So if anyone has any question, kindly put it in the chat box, so I will convey it to Dr. Umar.
Of course,
Yes.
Dr. Sharik, this is our objective actually, to make them safe.
So Dr. Umar, at the moment, what we are using different IoT devices in our, like say, smart home applications like smart stove, smart refrigerator. So are they also using some security framework?
Currently, I don't think so. I mean, even if they are using very simplistic, maybe encryption schemes. But as the technology progresses and especially the hardware processing technology progresses, because implementation of encryption schemes in like very tiny sensors, as you mentioned, it requires a lot of resources. So as the technology progresses in future, we'll be able to like have IoT devices which will be able to accommodate these complex encryption schemes, and they will be encrypted, of course.
Thank you so much, Dr. Umar. Anyone has any other question? So I think no one has any more question. So thank you so much, Dr. Umar. So thanks to all of the participants who are here. So we have a short break of 15 minutes. So after that, we are coming back. So please stay with us. So we have a number of nice presentation after this also. So see you after 15 minutes at 13:15. 15 minutes past 1. Thank you so much.